What the WNBA currently has is what we like to describe as a cash cow. There is a superstar. And we're not saying that the players on the court need to act any differently. That's the athletes are going to do what athletes are going to do in any sport. And I think we're all learning that WNBA, that's old school football, baby. That is old school football. But I would like the media people that continue to say, this rookie class, this rookie class, this rookie class. Nah, just call it for what it is. There's one white bitch for the Indiana team who is a superstar. And is it because she stayed in Iowa, put an entire state on her back, took a program from nothing to a multiple-year success story? Is it because she would go on to break the entire points records in the history of the NCAA? Not just the women's record by Kelsey Plum, shout out, but also Pistol Pete Maravich's, the dude's record as well. Is there a chance that people just enjoy watching her play basketball because how electrifying she is, what she did, what she stood for, how she went about going, what she went for? Maybe. But instead, we have to hear people say that we only like her because she's white. And she's the only popular because the rest of the rookie class is doing what they're doing. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. And we think the WNBA, more specifically, their refs need to stop trying to screw her over at every single turn. What you have is somebody special. And we're lucky she's here.
All right, let's start by acknowledging that nobody watches the WNBA. Okay? Well, let's make that very clear. Let's also acknowledge that this stuff with Caitlin Clark is the best thing that could have ever happened to the WNBA. Who is talking about the WNBA without this nonsense? So let's go back to what's actually going down here. Caitlin Clark has been hated since she was at Iowa because she is a white woman playing basketball and getting all the national attention. The WNBA, if they were smart, would capitalize on this by paying attention to her and not necessarily protecting her, but making sure that she isn't being mistreated. Unfortunately, they're unwilling to do so because she is a white woman playing basketball. And you're going to notice something about all the people being critical and crazy about her. It all started when LSU's Angela Reese, one of the individuals who was there playing in college with her, was mouthing off about her on the court. There was a big issue there. But it took over once she became the actual face of the league, and you started seeing all of this nonsense.
There is a thing called pretty privilege. There is a thing called white privilege. There is a thing called tall privilege. And we have to acknowledge that. And so part of it is about race, because if you think about the Brittany Griners of the world, you know, why did she have to go to play in Russia?
They wouldn't pay her.
Because they wouldn't pay her.
Because they wouldn't pay, not because she was black, but because they didn't believe in the WNBA.
This is part of my point. So now, you know, Caitlin Clark is bringing this money, these sponsorships, we hope, into the league, and other players will benefit from it. But I do think that she is more relatable to more people because she's white, because she's attractive. And unfortunately, there still is that stigma of against the LGBTQ plus community. 70% of the WNBA is black. A third of the players are in the LGBTQ plus community. And we have to do something about that stigma in this country. I think that people have a problem with basketball playing women that are lesbians. Who cares?
That the criticism is often very one-sided. Caitlin Clark talks her shit. Caitlin Clark is demonstrative. Caitlin Clark, you know, and in this way, I do compare, in many ways I compare to Steph, but also in this way as well, is that Steph Curry Steph Curry has a lot of flair and flamboyance to his game. Like, he can get into it, you know, with people, and he's got the shimmy and all that, but people aren't bothered by that. Caitlin Clark is the same way. It's like people aren't bothered by it because they're caught up in the narrative of, oh, here's this, you know, wonderful, kind soul from the great state of Iowa representing middle America. So they put all these sort of, what happens in these sports race wars is everybody projects their own shit on the people coming.
Now, I just want to ask you a question. What if a white commentator talked about a black athlete in this way? What would be done? What would the response be? What would people be saying? These individuals speaking right here would be livid. Why? Because it would probably be racist if it was talked about in this way. And this is racist, and no one wants to call it that. But let's watch what happened on the court the other day.
I mean, that's clear, which was called. The question is, will they call it unnecessary? Kennedy Carter.
It was a hard foul. It was an intentional foul. It's been upgraded to a flagrant foul. I think we all know that. Her teammate laughs as she picks her up off the floor. And the other players, well, they don't seem to be too interested in defending her at all. Now, the person who did it, chip on her shoulder. Here we are. Here's what she had to say.
Kennedy, on the play before bumping in with Caitlin, it seemed like she turned to you a little bit after the fever
I
score.
didn't answer no Caitlin Clark questions.
Did she say anything to you?
I don't know what she said.
What'd you say to her?
I didn't say anything.
That's enough.
It all started from the national championship game, and I've been dealing with this for 2 years now. And understanding, like, yeah, negative things have probably been said about me, but honestly, I'll take that because look where women's basketball is. People are talking about women's basketball, but you never would think that we'd be talking about women's basketball. People are pulling up to games. We got celebrities coming to games, sold out arenas, like just because of one single game. And just looking at that, like, I'll take that role. I'll take the bad guy role, and I'll continue to take that on and be that for my teammates. And if I want to be that, and I know I'll go down in history, I'll look back in 20 years and be like, yeah, the reason why we watching women's basketball is not just because of one person. It's because of me too, and I want y'all to realize that.
So this is just some basketball thuggery, and it is what it is. And people are now watching the WNBA because of it. But nobody dare call it racism when it is, in fact, racism. The sports world has completely avoided referring to it in the way it should actually be referred to. There are a bunch of black athletes and commentators who are very upset that a white girl is the face of the league. And because of that, they're deciding they're going to look the other way on clearly racially motivated things. Something that they look for race in every other scenario. But in this place, when it's happening on the court, it's not okay. And I'm telling you this right now, if Caitlin Clark was out there blowing up black athletes, they would be on top of her nonstop, suggesting that maybe there's a racial motivation to the whole thing. Now, Caitlin Clark has an opportunity here. She is basically the face in this situation, and all the other players are the heels. If she can overcome them and be a winner, as opposed to just the face because she herself is really good, but actually take teams to winning, then she is going to be someone that can actually take the WNBA to a place where it's actually profitable and these other players will get more money and more attention and all this other stuff. So the short-term gain of taking out their jealousy and their animosity on her is going to hurt the game as a whole, and they're too stupid to realize this thing that they demand you pay attention to, and you finally are for the first time, looks like a complete joke because there's racism at play. And nobody wants to call it out, and nobody wants to stop it. If this was happening in the reverse, people would be livid. But because it's happening this way, they're sort of asking the question of, well, why is this happening?
What we are seeing with Caitlin Clark is envy. They're human. I'm not surprised that we're seeing envy, but envy, a feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. With Caitlin Clark, it's not at all luck. But what we're seeing, and not generalizing, not by every WNBA player, but by some, I believe Kennedy Carter in that specific incident, is envy. Because post-game, when you go to the presser and you don't want to answer questions about Caitlin Clark, why? Now, it's a human response. I would be shocked if we weren't seeing envy, but I will not gaslight the viewers, the fans, and you watching by trying to act like individuals are not envious of Caitlin Clark. Not everybody. The WNBA players are not a monolith, but we definitely saw it in the incident over the weekend. Now, what I would suggest instead is don't be envious of Caitlin Clark. Let her take the brunt of the blows as she's the pacemaker. She got to do more interviews than y'all. Sucks for her. She had to play 11 games in 20 days. Meanwhile, the Aces, back-to-back champs, only had to play 6 games in the last 20 days. Sucks for her. She has to do post-game press conferences. Sucks for her. She got to do post-practice press conferences. Sucks for her. What Caitlin Clark is doing, she is taking the brunt of the burden so that everybody else can succeed at a higher level. A rising tide floats all boats. So what I'm simply suggesting for the WNBA players is don't be envious of Caitlin Clark. Let her do all the dirty work so that you too can succeed. More tickets being sold. If more tickets mean more ad revenue means a higher salary cap. A higher salary cap means more money for you.
But back to the face-heel dynamic, it's like a professional wrestling thing. The Machine is the heel. They are fighting Caitlin Clark, who is the baby face, who is going to overcome that machine. And if she is successful, then the WNBA will be more successful. But if it is seen as this hateful and deranged place it looks like right now, people will lose interest in this pretty quickly.